Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, man. I actually really enjoyed the debate, bro. One, I'm able to, you and Sam were able to have it and not turn into a complete dumpster fire. I thought it was good, though. It was contentious and passionate. I thought it was good in that regard. You guys, neither of you crashed out, which I thought was great. The moderator did okay to keep the conversation on track. Here's what I appreciated most about it is that I think is that you did a good job of getting very myopic with your definition of what you mean by prayer. Tell me your definition of prayer again that you used in the debate.
Yeah, so to be very clear, right? Just remove everything. Communication, right? From this realm to
Yes.
another realm. So whatever your definition of prayer is, whatever it is, can that prayer be a portal to another realm
Hmm.
to where now that prayer can communicate whatever it is to another saint who is in heaven? That was my
Yes.
perspective. Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then what was Sam's definition? He had a much more broader definition.
Uh, Not to straw man the guy, but um, prayer is any communication. Um, just prayer is there's multiple layers of prayer. So I kind of took the cheap shot a little bit. I kind of joked and I said, "Well, we're praying to each other." You know,
Yeah, he
um,
made prayer more of like any basically communication, like conversation, talking, right? Like it was a bit more broader
yeah,
in
correct.
that
It's a little
regard.
bit more broad. Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and I think you did well in that you said, "Hey, we're talking about from this realm to the other realm." So anyway, I thought that was good because I think with clarity we can move towards confidence in terms of what we believe and what's different about what we believe in. So if he takes the broader position, then we can actually see what our differences are in that regard. So I thought it was good that you gave a functioning definition of what you mean by prayer, and then he had a broader definition. And then okay, cool. Now we know where we disagree. And then you pointed out, well, I guess Sam's praying to me right now, which was a nice jab. But I thought that was good. I thought that brought a lot of clarity because I do think Catholics define prayer a little different than we do. So I thought that part was really good. And I think overall, I think you did a great job in terms of being very clear and pulling out, asking him for sources, for Catholic sources, which I don't recall him having any. And some of it was some of the word games about the Holy Spirit that he played. Didn't find compelling. But yeah, I thought it was a good debate, man. When you first said it to me, I thought it was going to be way more contentious and combative, and it had some elements of that. But I'm like impressed that you guys were able to get through it, hour and a half, and try and find some clarity on the different positions.
Yeah, some Catholics did reach out to me, and this is where I'm really confused because some Catholics said that intercession of the saints isn't defined on how Sam defined it. I, from my understanding, I thought that's what it was. So I'm gonna have to read some sources to see how the Catholic, how there are certain things, and I just need to read some Catholic sources to see how the Catholics define it because I apparently that's not how it's exactly explicitly stated. I didn't know, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
specifically.
according to the catechism, it says that they intercede for us.
That's
And
it.
Sam was just saying, oh, no, it's us talking to them.
Wait, so you're telling me that the Catechism says that they intercede for us? It doesn't say anything about us interceding to them.
Um, it might somewhere else. The specific one I was looking at, no, it doesn't.
Well,
Doesn't
I'll
say
have to
anything
take a
about that.
look. But what Sam did say did seem consistent with what other Catholics have said. So I'll have to read into that. You know what I'm saying? Because
And
it
also
did
this
seem.
thing about, oh,
Mhm.
go ahead.
No, I'm finished. Go ahead.
Oh, this thing about prayer, right? They'll try to conflate the two and say, "Oh, prayer and asking is the same thing," but that's not what you see in the Bible. These are actually two different Greek words,
Yeah. What was
and
most
the
interesting.
context is
Yeah.
used differently too.
Yeah, let me say this. What was most interesting to me, Ruslan and Christian King, and I was not aware of this, is that technically speaking, by the way that they define prayer, anytime in the Bible when a person spoke to an angel, that is technically prayer, right? Now, if we get to the rabbit hole, and somebody wrote this in the comment sections, was Jesus praying to Satan when he was talking to Satan? Because if prayer is communication and the devil's an angel, were they praying to each other? You see what I'm saying? So I need some
Oh, that's
clarification.
interesting.
Yeah, I need some clarification there. Because I would just say that the devil and Jesus were just communicating. Um, and leave it there. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, yeah, the devil and Jesus were communicating, and that's fine. But I just don't feel comfortable inserting the word prayer in regular communication. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. That's just the way that I see it. I didn't know that they saw it like that, but you live and you learn. You know what I'm saying?
What's
I
been the
don't know.
response to the debate in terms of your community and your chats?
Yeah, it was 100% said that I won, and 100% said he won in his chat. It was 100%, 100%. There were Protestants celebrating like it was a freaking like the Knicks won the championship. There was so many celebrations everywhere, and similarly, there were a lot of celebrations from Catholics. So every side said their side won. So as long as my side didn't say I lost, because that does happen when a side says they won, then another side says that the other side lost. Like, for example, negod.net, the Catholics said they won, and the Protestants also said that the Catholics won. That type of scenario, I'm glad I was not in that. You know,
Oh, I didn't
yeah,
see that debate. I didn't see that
no,
debate.
yeah, it was a
Okay, help
slaughterhouse,
me
brother.
get context on him. What did he actually misquote that writing? Remember, there was the wasn't there something he quoted that wasn't in the thing? Did you guys narrow that down?
Yeah,
Like,
so
did he
when
actually
Mark,
misquote something?
yeah, he said Mark wasn't there. There's a passage in Mark that wasn't in there, and a lot of people got on his neck, and they were proving that it was. So that's pretty much what was the main thing. But my main thing is that Need God just wasn't aggressive. He got bulldozed, bro. He just
No.
wasn't.
I'm not talking about. Sorry, I'm talking about your debate with Sam. Wasn't there
Oh,
something that he cited, and it was a cliff
oh,
note on a
Oh, yeah, the
commentary
Shepherd of
instead? Yeah.
Hermas.
yeah. So here was the deal. Here was the deal. So here's what happened. So to be clear, okay, because I looked it over. When Sam read the quote that he read was the gray bracket was an interpretation of what the quote was. So he read that and he said, "Oh, look, this quote proves it." But when I looked at the quote naked, it didn't have that because the quote that he had the interpretation of somebody else. So essentially, the quote said, "This is a prayer to an angel," right? And so Sam read that, and so then I got the quote myself on the internet, and I said, "Oh, it's a forgery! It's a forgery," because I was under the assumption that Sam was reading that quote like as if that was the quote itself. So when we
But
went
he was reading a commentary on the quote. Is that correct?
correct a bracket that was on top of the quote. So you know how in the Bible there's like little brackets, like it'll be
Uh huh.
like Jesus feeds the 12, like brackets.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
read the bracket and then read the quote, and so the bracket was like, oh, Hermas's prayer to the angel, right? And so he read that all together. But when I went on the original quote, the quote was the naked quote without
Uh-huh.
brackets or interpretation. The word pray wasn't there. So
So
when we
did he
went to,
concede that? Did he concede that though, that he was reading a bracket and not the actual quote from what he
yes,
cited?
he did. And so then what we did is that we opened the original source. The
Okay.
original source didn't have the word pray, it had the word begged. So
Uh
he
huh.
gave me an example of how somebody begged Caesar. then I asked him, well, is Caesar in heaven at that point when he was being begged? Because that word begged is used in the Bible multiple times to people that are in this realm. So now the debate became, does the word begged mean prayer? To which he said, any form of communication or it is a prayer. So that's when he said, oh, he technically prayed to him because that word begged is, in my definition of how I define prayer, that would be a prayer anyway. So then I said, well, understood, but that doesn't really make the argument because the angel was right there next to Hermes anyways. So then that's when I made the commentary and I said, oh, we must be praying to each other right now. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. Okay. No, that's helpful.
There we go. Somebody has the quote. The bracket said, I prayed to the angel of repentance who is called the shepherd, right? So that was the bracket. And so, so then we kind of went over that. So I wouldn't say that he was purposely being, anything like that. So I got excited, obviously, but the debate became over the word,
And you also have to look at the Greek words, because sometimes, for example, even in the King James, they'll translate it as pray, but they're words that's mainly used in the context of like asking or beseeching or begging, and not the word pray as in the context of praying to God that you see, which is a completely different word that you see, in other passages that are clearly talking about prayer to God. And but they'll try to use that to mix the two to say the same thing.
And I think that's actually what Sam was showing in his original presentation. He showed a couple of Greek words, and one of them was epenti. I forget exactly how to pronounce it, but it was like communicating, begging, and so forth. So I agree. I think they're very broadening the term of prayer.
Let me address Stacy Long. This is my favorite Catholic lady. She's a gentle woman. I respect her. She's an elder. She is a Catholic though. She watches my channel a lot. So much love. Elder lady, very sweet lady. But Stacy, even if we were to argue and say that the word was pray, even if that angel was in this realm, so it wouldn't work. It would only work if the angel was in heaven, like he was in another realm, but that angel was literally right next to him, like they were just having a face-to-face conversation. So it wouldn't work, right? So that's what I'm saying. But Stacy, much love to you, but I'm saying that's why it wouldn't work for my paradigm. That's it. And then obviously we went to Sirach, you know what I'm saying? Now I didn't have time to go back and forth with Sirach, but what I did is that I went to, while we were talking, I went on Catholic Answers, I went on AI, I went everywhere to see if there was anybody that saw it as that book being a prayer. Like I looked everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't find anybody in the universe who saw that as a prayer. I did a deep dive AI search, because I pay a subscription for ChatGPT, where ChatGPT looks in all corners of the earth to see if anybody sees it that way, right? I typed it, I put in the quotes. I said, can you find a match somewhere? Reddit, anything, scholarly, anything. And I couldn't find it. So, I did a little deep dive, and I don't think much people interpret it that way. So, that's why I kind of brought that up, I don't think I think it's not talking about that,
You're saying communicating equals praying.
Yeah. Would you not agree, or?
I don't think anybody's praying to heaven and water. I don't. But
and also look at this. This is what, because Catholics and Orthodox do this all the time. They say, oh, ask is the same thing as pray. No, it isn't. If you just look at the Greek words, it's very simple. This is the word for erotao.
It says pray right there.
Hold on. It can be used as pray. But look at this word. This is erotao. Hold on, bro.
Why are you always
Hold on,
Why
man.
are you interrupting the dude, man? God, dog.
This
You
word
already made a
erotao,
statement, so I gotta stop you right there.
Oh my gosh, here comes the sharpest lion ever. Here we go. Typical behavior.
Go ahead, C.
let me just remove him for a second because he manifested.
He's gonna manifest quick, bro.
Erotao, this is the word used for ask, and most of the time it's to request, ask, or beseech. It's mainly used in this context, in the sense of a human request, not prayer to God. The 50 times that this word is used, it's used in the sense of ask, not prayer. It's very simple. You just look at the verses. It says, and his disciples came and besought him. I will also ask you one thing. Right? 50 times. The only other times that this word is used, where it's not involving a human to human, asking, is 5. Was it 5 times? Yeah. Only in the Gospel of John. Interestingly enough, this word is used in a unique way when Jesus addresses the Father. When Jesus says, and I will pray the Father. So this is why it also means pray. But notice the context. Here it's Jesus talking to the Father. All the other 50 times it's being used, it's between humans. The actual word for pray is this one, which is a completely different Greek word, and it means to pray to God. That is to supplicate, to worship, pray, to make prayer. And for example, you see this used in Matthew 6:9, where it's clearly talking about prayer, where it says, after this manner, therefore pray ye, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be my name. So the only people that are confused about the word pray is you guys.